Yo, what's good YouTube? ZAMCRO here, aka Scoop, back with the APA Evolution, and we have Season 1, Week 1 here, where we're taking on A1 and his Arkham City Delibirds, where he's got a very threatening team. As if you can see on screen, first thing I noticed when I looked on screen was if you look down below at the bottom where the Diggersby lineup is, I've got it labeled as Z Skillpede actually, not even the second I. So I marked that really bad. That's supposed to be Scolipede. Um, I typed that before I went to work today, and I'm off now, and I didn't realize my mistake until now. So um, this is week 1. APA Evolution has got a solid lineup of coaches. Like I mentioned, not exactly what I expected, but it'll still be good. Just there were some players that I really wanted to play, but I'm definitely happy to face the people that I do get to face, such as A1 here. He's a solid builder, loves a Diggersby, and drafted the monster itself. Um, he's got Z Scolipede and Z Cutiefly, Gabat, Delibird, and Fungus. So all those Pokemon are Z move users. I think that's the most I've ever faced on one squad, being 5 out of 12, which is insane. He's got Scolipede, Clefable, Crobat, Thundurus, Therian, Zard Y. He's got the Latias, Diggersby, Volcanion, and the 4 I mentioned earlier that they're really not too likely to come. I guess in certain scenarios I could see them coming. Outside of maybe Delibird, I don't really see it having any value to any squad. But since it is his mascot, I could really see him bringing it to a match. Though I don't see him bringing it to my match. I have all kinds of threats versus that and things that take 0 damage from that. So I really don't see that coming. He's got hazard options in Scolipede, which is pretty scary. Toxic Spikes should be annoying. I do have Magic Bounce, but outside of that, my only way to remove hazards is with Oricorio and forcing my opponent to remove hazards. That being said, my opponent does have things like Scolipede, Crobat, Thundurus, Therian, Zard Y, and Volcanion, all of which are weak to rocks. So I could see him bringing Defog himself. It's his only way to remove hazards, I believe, is Defog. And he has it on a couple Pokemon. So if I can force him to remove hazards, then I'll be in an okay position if he was to get his hazards up. Multiple hazards. I don't mind rocks going up, but if he gets Toxic Spikes up, that could be annoying to my squad. Mega Diancie doesn't appreciate that. Tangrowth and Slowbro definitely don't appreciate it. Even my Miltank doesn't appreciate it. I guess Cobalion is immune, and I do have a Rest Talk Zygarde that we'll go over in a minute. But I really don't want Toxic Spikes up. Zard Y is an amazing breaker and matches up fantastically versus my squad. It's a huge threat, so I had to come up with not necessarily ways, but pivots and things like that. Like I can switch into something, bait the next coverage move and switch into something else and keep going from there. It's still going to be really tough to try to play around Zard though. And then, like I mentioned, the Diggersby, it's a huge threat. Thundurus Therian's a huge threat. Lots of offensive capabilities, but then he does have some mons that can be very annoying on the defensive side, such as Clefable, which could be a huge nuisance. That being said, our squad is Zygarde 50%, Mega Diancie, Tangrowth, Crocodile, Slowbro, Miltank, Cobalion, Alola Marowak, Oricorio, and the Piloswine, where Zygarde and Oricorio are our Z-move users. Excuse me, I got ahead of myself there. Anyways, we're bringing Zygarde, Mega Diancie, Tangrowth, Slowbro, Miltank, and Cobalion to the matchup. With Zygarde and Mega Diancie, Zard Y becomes less of an issue, especially if I get my Stealth Rocks up. And I've got Miltank and Slowbro as well, which Miltank has the Thick Fat ability, and Slowbro obviously resists fire. But it's water, thanks to the drought. Its water type attacks are severely weakened, so I'm actually not running any water coverage on Slowbro. And then Tangrowth is always forced out by Zard. So Zard's a really big threat. Also, some other threats are Scolipede, Diggersby, and Thundurus Therian. They don't just come in and net a kill outside of like Diggersby and Zard Y, but They're all very threatening. Can be potential setup, Clefable, and Lottie could even be like Calm Mind variants or something like that. So lots of different things here. And we've got a Zygarde 50% here with the Choice Band. We're rocking an Adamant Nature, and we have 120 speed EVs and max attack, which left us 136 EVs to put into our hit points or health or HP. So pretty bulky, not as bulky as we'd like, but it should get the job done in this matchup. It's not 2-hit KO'd by Flamethrower, so it can switch in on Flamethrower. It can actually take Flamethrower into Solar Beam, so if he's not running like Dragon Pulse, then I should be good there, or Hidden Power Ice even. He could definitely run that on his Zard. And then we've got 1,000 Arrows with the Choice Band, which kind of mercs his entire squad. Potential 2-hit KO on the Clefable, which is sorry, I thought I heard something that kind of actually scared me. Anyways, I think I was saying that Zygarde can 2-hit KO a Clefable, which is pretty nice. Threatens out a lot of his squad. Volcanion, the Scolipede can't do much to us unless it's like a toxic variant or like a Swords Dancing Focus Sash. Well, even that. Maybe like a Swords Dance into a Z move could be scary. But Zygarde's really bulky with just minimal HP investment thanks to its natural stats and bulk. Mega Diancie is our Stealth Rocker. I think our only Stealth Rocker. I was going to say one of, but it is our only Stealth Rocker in this match. I felt like I could force things like Zard Y out, force Volcanion out, Thunderous Therian, force it out, the Lottie, force it out, and I can get my rocks up. I'm also just dual stab with Moonblast and Power Gem, and we've got the Rock Polish tech on there so that if we're matched up against something like Scolipede and he's running like an Adamant Nature or something and can't outpace us, he may click Protect to guarantee the outspeed, and we can click Rock Polish up on that. That would be pretty cool. Also, he's got things like Thunderous Therian and Zard Y, which don't appreciate Power Gem, Volcanion as well. So depending on their HP investment, it's very likely that he switches out. I can get a Rocks up, I can get a Rock Polish off, and then if I get a Rock Polish off, then I'll outpace everything and proceed to pick up kills, lots of them too, especially if I can meet the right criteria in terms of getting damage off on things like Clefable. He could bring Amoonguss, but I don't really, or not Amoonguss, but the Fungus. I don't really see it coming as a check to the Mega Diancie. He could also have a very specially defensive Clefable, but then again, switching into Diamond Storm is always really scary. Anyways, next up we have Tangrowth, which is a Leftovers variant actually, with a little bit of mixed defense. We've got 104 defense EVs, 156 special defense EVs, nearly max HP with a relaxed nature. Giga Drain, obviously for stab, it can take quite a bit of damage from the or HP from the Diggersby, potentially avoid a 2-hit KO, and with the Giga Drain recovery, which would be really nice. We got Rock Slide for Zard Wipe switching in. It also hits the Crobat and the Thunderous Therian for more damage. And we've got Knockoff to get rid of items, which is very nice, especially versus the Lottie, which could otherwise switch in like Zard and be very effective versus my squad. And our last move is Leech Seed, so that we can just potentially catch something upon switching in with the Leech. Especially Zard Y, and switch into something like Mega Diancie or Slowbro, pivot around, try to get something in safely, and get a little bit of leftovers or Leech Seed recovery thanks to Tangrowth. Next up we have Slowbro, which is another leftovers regenerator mon, same as Tangrowth, with Psychic, Ice Beam, Slack Off, and Magic Coat. Magic Coat to force back taunts from Crobat. And if he were to, be like a late game hazard stacking Scolipede, I could pass those back as well. I do have Slack Off, like I mentioned. I can come in on an attack, potentially recover up. I don't always have to switch to get my health back. I can recover up with Slack Off, which is really nice. Got Psychic for our main form of stab. It hits the Scolipede and the Crobat super effectively. He has no resistance outside of the Lottie, which we have the Ice Beam for, so that's really nice. Ice Beam also hits A few other things a little bit harder, such as Thunderous Therian and the Gabat, but it depends what he brings really. So we'll see there. So we've got max HP and nearly max defense, but we have a special attack boosting nature with just a little bit of special attack or special defense investment to avoid, being 2-hit KO'd by Zard's Flamethrower into Solar Beam. I think. Don't quote me on that. So next up we have our initial Zard switch in. We've got Miltank, and my opponent could, cover that as well with Focus Blast or some kind of fighting type coverage. So it could be very scary, but like I said, I can pivot around. I can go into Slowbro first, bait the Solar Beam, go into Miltank or Tangrowth on the Solar Beam, and then pivot back into the Miltank on the Flamethrower. I got the thick fat ability, max HP with quite a bit of Spadef investment, just a little bit of speed and defense investment with a careful nature. We've got Hillbell, Rock Tomb, Toxic, and Milk Drink. His initial switch ins aren't going to be something like, I don't think it would be something like Scolipede and Crobat, especially after I showed Rock Tomb as my way to hit Zard. I don't expect him to switch into something weak to Rock. So being able to throw off a Toxic in the late game or mid game versus the early game versus the Lottie, the Clefable if it's not Magic Guard, Volcanion even, catching those things with a Toxic could be really, really nice, and then bopping them with the Rock Blast. Being able to Heal Bell, get rid of Earth status on our squad is really nice for us. He could bring Toxic Mons, he could bring Thunderwave Mons and Clefable, which could be very annoying. So yeah, having Heal Bell is really nice. And last but not least, we have Cobalion with a Shuka Berry. We have the Justified ability, max HP, and a little bit of Spadef investment with 200 EVs in speed and a careful nature. This thing is one of our ways to semi-check a Diggersby. With the Shuka Berry, we can take Earthquakes pretty well, and we can switch in on returns and knockoff. Knockoff is a huge issue. My opponent could run knockoff or Ice Punch, all kinds of different things, or you could just run like Choice Banded, Return, and Earthquake, and it's just murking my squad. Hence the Shuka Berry, hence bringing the Tangrowth, and having a Rock type and a Steel type to resist the normal stab. Lots of different options there. I also thought about Oricorio and Marowak to try to, make sure that he could never lock himself into Earthquake because of Oricorio. He can never lock himself into Frustration because of Alola Marowak, but ultimately decided that this was the route that I would go. And on Cobalion, we have enough speed to outpace a lot of his mons, such as Zardois, up to Zardois and Thunderous Therian, I believe, with a careful nature, and we have Taunt to prevent things like Scolipede, Clefable, Crobat, anything getting too out of hand. And then we've got Iron Head and Close Combat for general stab. Iron Head hits the Scolipede, hits the Clefable, Crobat, the Lottie. Close Combat hits the Diggersby and the Volcanion. And like I said, I don't expect the last 4 months, so I don't really want to run coverage for them. And our last move is going to be Stone Edge, so that we can maybe catch Zardois off guard if he wants to stay in or something. But yeah, that's going to be the squad, and we can go ahead and hop into the replay here versus A12 and see what's going to happen here. Alright, so A12's brought the Mega Charizard Y Volcanion, which is actually a pretty nasty core. I didn't even realize that when I was prepping and when I looked at his draft and things like that. I never really realized how powerful, Volcanion could be in the sun with Fire Blast or Flamethrower. That's major power. He's got the Crobat, the Clefable, Diggersby, and the Scolipede. So definitely brought his big 6. Didn't bring the Thundy or the Lottie, out of the big 8, but he brought big 6 here out of the big 8. So that's really scary. I didn't expect a little 4, so yeah, this was kind of expected anyway. And I do feel prepared, so we're going to go ahead and hop into it. Diggersby is huge, huge pain. His only potential Stealth Rocker is Clefable, so initially at this matchup, I realized that Clefable is a Stealth Rocker. And we're going to see what he leads off with here. So he leads off with his Volcanion as we lead off with Cobalion. He probably expected us to lead with Cobalion, seeing that Clefable was his only rocker. So he maybe expected our Cobalion lead. But what we could have did was led with Mega Diancie, and then that would have been really scary for my opponent. So I'm not really sure why he led with Volcanion. Maybe to avoid a lot of other threats that could have kind of came in. But I guess really my only two potential leads, or three leads, would be Mega Diancie, Miltank, and the Cobalion. So I'm not sure about this. I guess it does. If he was certain that I would lead with Cobalion, it does make sense, and he's going to force me out here. I'm going to go straight into my Slowbro as he goes for the Steam Eruption. Does 24%, and I reveal my leftovers here. He's going to switch out as I go for the Psychic. I get a nice 41% off, and he's going to. I'm going to switch out into Miltank as my opponent is going to make a read here and goes for the Focus Blast. So that was a really nice play. I could have clicked Psychic again, knowing that I tank a Flamethrower. A Solar Beam, and he should also know that I tank a Solar Beam. Based on the Flamethrower damage there at 24%. So I'm not real sure why he would predict so early, but he made the play, and it was the right play. He called me there, called me out on my switching to Miltank. He made the play, but he missed. He missed a big Focus Blast there. I'm going to go for a Rock Tomb here and try to knock out this Zard as he switches into Crobat, and its speed gets lowered, but he takes basically no damage. He's able to Toxic my Zygarde though with his Crobat, which is really unfortunate for me. However, I just spam 1,000 arrows here, and his Clefable doesn't reveal leftovers, so I'm able to go ahead and 2-hit KO that thing. That was really nice. Here my opponent brings in the Zard. He goes for the Focus Blast again as I pivot into my Slowbro first, and then going to go out into my Cobalion here expecting the Solar Beam. And I eat that up pretty well. And here I could, if I had rocks, I could get them. I'm going to go for the Edge though, as his Crobat switches in and takes nothing. So I needed to be, had I been a little bit more offensive on my Cobalion, Cobalion would have really did awesome in this match. Unfortunately, it's really weak, especially without any boost and attack investment. I'm able to Heal Bell here, get rid of the Toxic on the Miltank, but he brings in his Scolipede here, and he reveals Toxic Spikes. So, like I mentioned, that could be a huge nuisance for me, but I really believed they wouldn't come thanks to my Magic Bounce. But I can understand why that more than anything, because of my Regenerator Core. I'm going to have to be very weary of the way people are going to want to approach my Regenerator Core. Anyways, makes a switch out into Charizard, gets taunted, doubles out into his Crobat on my Stone Edge there, and he's out of range, so I'm just going to hard switch out into the Miltank as he goes for the Heat Wave. In the sun, Heat Wave does 9. Basically bounces off there, and he's going to hard switch into his Diggersby as I miss Rock Tomb. Not too big of an issue, it wouldn't have did much, but it would have lowered his speed, which is something to think about. He's going to go for the return here as I go hard into my Cobalion, and I can fire off a close combat here as he just switches out into his Crobat. I'm going to click Iron Head though to try to prevent Crobat from coming in, but it eats that too. It's just too bulky, it's just too powerful. I can click Psychic here versus the Zard, get a nice 32% off. I'm not sure how it did 41 earlier, now that it's doing 32. He goes for the Solar Beam though, and as you can see, it does not knock me out. So it would, his Focus Blast earlier was a big boy play. So facing one of the big boys now, and he brings in a Scolipede here, goes for the Earthquake as it prompts our Sugar Berry, and we get an Iron Head crit, and it does nothing to the Scolipede either. All of his Pokemon are extremely fat, and I just can't break them, and my opponent's going to be able to bring in his Scolipede here. He gets it +2 speed. I'm going to reveal Extreme Speed here, and again, this Choice Band Extreme Speed is bouncing off of Crobat. This Crobat's just too strong for me. I'm not going to be able to get around it, so I'm going to switch out to my Tangrowth here as he brings in his Diggersby. So this gives me a little bit of an opportunity to try to beat down the Diggersby. This is crucial damage, puts it in extreme speed range. And now that's going to be the plan, is to get everything into extreme speed range. He goes for the return again. He's able to 2-hit KO us. And now we're going to bring in our Mega Diancie, and we're going to go for the Rock Polish, expecting him to switch. But he actually stays in, and this return is going to make it to where he can sack a couple Pokemon, or actually goes into Crobat here and eats my Moonblast. And then he's going to go into the Scolipede here on my power gem, realizing that Crobat is huge for the end game here. It can 1v1 my Miltank, and the Toxic puts me in quick attack range. So had he switched out earlier on my Rock Polish, I may have been able to bring it back. That's how good Mega Diancie is. But he did stay in and attack me with return, putting him in a position to where he's going to be able to do a lot of damage here. As he doubles into his Diggersby too, he's just not letting off the gas pedal at all, and he goes straight for the superpower here, locks himself into superpower, and I'm going to go into Zygarde. And my play here is to click. I actually made a misplay here. I wasn't thinking. He just revealed to be slower than my Miltank, and I just was not thinking right here. So my play is 100% to click 1,000 arrows, banking on his him staying in here, and then choice band 1,000 arrows, depending on Volcanion's set, could potentially knock him out. So what I actually do is click extreme speed, thinking that he might preserve Diggersby, knowing the only way I could knock out the Volcanion. Had I went for extreme speed there, I would have never been able to hit. I guess extreme speed was probably just a choke on my end. There was no win with extreme speed there, even if he did make the switch. So 1,000 arrows was 100% my play. So if you're watching and you're learning, understand that 1,000 arrows was always the play there. I would have outpaced the Diggersby, knocked it out, and maybe knocked out the Volcanion, which could have been cool, and would have got us the 1-0 win instead of losing 1-0. Anyways, fantastic game, almost 40 turns. Really awesome Crobat. It took no damage from anything on my squad. And shout outs to Mega Diancie and Zygarde for putting in the work offensively. Mega Diancie almost brought it back there. And had I clicked Power Gem on the Crobat switch in, I might have been able to pull it back anyway. But yeah, that was fantastic, and yeah, A1 deserves to win. He played fantastically as well. Made a lot of really big plays and some nice doubles at the end game to just not let off the pressure there. So yeah, good game to him. Let me know what you guys think. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you for watching.